Well, I am here with Watie White. He is a local artist doing amazing things in this community and elsewhere, I think, around the country. But let's talk about what you're doing here.
Sure.
But thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's really great to be here.
So, you know, we met a few months ago when you were working on the pirate.
The story of the greatest pirate who ever lived on the face of the earth.
So we're going to talk about that in a minute. So, but I just want to kind of, who is Watie White? Who
Well,
are you? Where'd you come from?
Who is Watie? So I'm a transplant to Omaha. I moved here in 2006 from Chicago.
Okay.
And I grew up in rural southern Illinois, but my family kind of always moved around. They were cultural anthropologists, and so everywhere we lived, we had this sort of strange experience of not being from there. So we're always sort of outsiders that got along pretty well with everybody, and so invited into a lot of circles, but never in the center of any of them.
So, what brought you to Omaha?
Family, really.
Okay.
We had a couple of kids. My ex-wife got a job that seemed great, that would move us here and be closer to her family as well. Our little ones have gotten much less little over the years then.
So have you always is being an artist, has that always been your kind of profession or career? Or it seems like just watching you know, it's been interesting to watch you.
Well, thank you. It's, I think with a lot of artists, like you always do it. You do it as a child, and then unless something happens and it gets interrupted, you kind of keep doing it.
Right.
And there's only ever been a few things that I really loved, and art was always one of them. And so I majored in it when I did it all through high school. I majored in it in college. I went and got a BFA and a master's and kept doing it. I have always had other jobs. Like most artists, we work kind of these portfolio careers where we do many things, and all of it kind of accumulates into something that feels like our mission, our work.
Yeah. Well, again, I feel like our paths have crossed many times, but again, just about 3 months ago, I finally said, who the heck are you? And came over to your studio and started and talked to you. Was incredibly inspired by so many things that you do. But one of the pieces you were working on was say it again, the pirate,
the greatest pirate who ever lived.
Yeah. So you were working on that. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that's really cool.
Sure. It was so fun, and I've been so fortunate in my career to have to do work that caters to the things that I take the greatest amount of joy in.
Yeah.
And a lot of those are there's a lot of storytelling, there's a lot of collaboration in these kind of projects. So probably about a year ago or so now, I started talking with the administration at Brownell Talbot, school that my son attends. And they'd come and we would, I'd find a thing for them at the studio to auction off every year. Right. And then they started asking about what would a project that we collaborated on look like. And then as I'm thinking about and trying to figure out, like, what is it? I'm a visual arts person. I paint, and I'm a printmaker. It probably is going to be a mural of some sort. There's always like this figurative element to it. There's always a narrative to it. Yeah. So I'm going to come in with a story, and they're going to allow me to work with some students, and they'll be using the students to research and to figure out how to tell this story.
I love it.
And so I tried to figure out what kind of story is an appropriate one to tell at a school like this. And so their mascot is a raider, is a pirate. And so I started going down this little rabbit hole of, well, is there a good pirate story? Who is the greatest pirate who ever lived? And it turns out, by every measure, there is one pirate who is bigger, better, more successful than anybody else that's ever lived. It's not even close.
And she is?
She is a Chinese woman from the turn of the 19th century named Qing Shi.
Yeah.
And is just like, everything about the story is really amazing. And the further into it we got. So I worked with 7 high school students, all young women, to research this story, to spend every morning for a week straight answering every question I could think of.
Yeah.
And the things that we came up with, like, paint this story that is really fascinating. It's a woman who became a pirate at a time when women were not allowed to have jobs or own property.
Yeah.
But not only that, she really led this class and ethnic uprising against the power of Imperial China, and never loses. That's the other amazing thing. But
Right.
every other pirate eventually gets caught, and she has China, Britain, and the biggest navy in the world in Portugal coming after her, and she wins every time, and eventually accepts a pardon from the emperor.
Is that women intuition? I mean, we
She's something, yeah.
tap into-
Every one of the stories that I would read or that I would show and show to the students was again and again somebody trying to spin her showing up and stealing all their stuff as somehow some marginal victory on their behalf.
Yeah. So you worked with these 7 students,
Yeah.
and again, I got an opportunity. You had a really great kind of grand unveiling or grand opening about a month ago. Wasn't able to come to that. I went by Brownell yesterday, and it's truly amazing. And there's so many little hidden
I think
pieces in that.
So a lot of what my public art usually is about is that I try to I work in a community. I work with people who are not artists in one way or another. I find a way of getting them to use their voice in a new way, and then I take that and try to make that loud, and then I make an object with that is going to sit in that place for. This is going to be there as long as that school is there. It's going to be there 50, 60, 100 years. And everybody who goes past it is disrupted a little bit by artwork like that.
Right.
It changes the psychogeography of a place. Everyone switches the ways that they travel around. They look at the figures of the characters of the narratives in there, and they feel like those represent who they are. And then it changes what the environment of that school is going to be.
Right, right. And again, when I was looking at it yesterday and pointing out some things, and you also personalize it. One of the main women, there was a kitty down by her feet. So that
was one of the girls brought in her cat, because we spent this long time figuring out the people that she grew up with. They lived all their lives. A whole family would live in a boat about the size of a table because they belonged to an ethnic group that was not allowed to live on land.
Right.
And in living that way, they probably had pets. They had animals with them.
Right.
And so we spent this long time figuring out what kind of thing would they do.
Yeah.
What would live in a tiny boat like that with them.
I mean, I could talk to you for hours about this project, but
it's extensive.
But I do want to move on to a couple other things.
Sure.
But if anybody wants to learn more about that project, is it on your...
You can always look at my website, watiewhite.com.
Okay.
Google me, there'll be plenty of it out there.
Because there's just so much great stuff about that. You have another project called 100 People that you've been working on. Where are you at with the 100 People?
I am about at the midpoint of it.
Okay.
So I've been doing these for a little over a year and a half now.
Okay.
And so what I'm doing is I am inviting one at a time local artists and advocates to come by my studio. People who are kind, people who do some sort of good thing in the world. Usually very grassroots and usually very humble people.
Yeah.
They come, they collaborate with me to figure out a portrait of them, something that they want to be seen as, something that they want to say. And then I translate that into a woodcut, into a carving that I make. Then I print that as an 8-foot mural that will last 10 to 30 years, and I install that somewhere in public.
Is wood cutting, is that another, because you have the murals, you have wood cutting.
So I'm a painter and a printmaker, and about half the work I do are these public art projects that usually do something with a community-based or social justice kind of mission.
Yeah.
And in this case, my intention was to take 100 people who do great things without any expectation of accolades, or even people who are doing this professionally who are there for the accolades, but who are showing up every day to do the hard work of it. It's very humbling work.
Yeah.
And to do something that honors them and do something that raises them in the eyes of the people who walk around the city.
Yeah, which are amazing people, and I've seen some of the people that you've done the portraits of. and then learning about the ones that I don't know are equally amazing.
Yeah.
So
At the point, I've carved about 50 of the 100 people.
Okay.
I've installed about 30 of them as murals.
Right.
And the next phase will be also installing QR codes to queue up with first-person interviews of the models that will be hosted on my website.
I love that. So in the 2 minutes we have left,
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about like some future things.
Yes.
Again, you know, I was looking through your Facebook page and also heard you talking out in the reception room. You're doing something called Odyssey.
Yes, yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, I'm really excited. I love this project. So it's in a lot of ways very similar to the process I went through at Brownell Talbot. I'm working with Holling Heights Elementary School, and I'm showing up with the story of the Odyssey. You know, one of the most iconic canonical stories, epics of Western literature. And I'm working with a first-day group of 4th and 5th graders to figure out how they understand the story, how they hear the story, what appeals to them, what does not appeal to them, to see it through their eyes and somehow get them to internalize it and describe all the things that they can see in it to me. And then get them to model for all the characters and to use them to tell the story. And then I'm making a mural out of that. So at the point I'm thick in the drawing and painting of it, which is really fun. It's a great place to be.
Yeah.
And the ways that these kids are developing the characters, and the things that the characters as they develop them are saying something about the way they see the world, the way that they see themselves, the way they see themselves together in this group of 10 or 12 kids who all become a little bit equalized in that room.
Yeah.
And they're all going to be kind of little celebrities in their school from now on.
I love it. What an experience for them, and I know what an experience for you. You're just telling me you go to sleep thinking about this, you wake up thinking about it.
It's all I do.
So how can people follow you? I mean, we could talk for hours, honestly.
Yeah,
again.
we're
So
just getting started.
I'm going to wrap back around and have you on the
luckily,
show again. But yeah.
there are very, very few people in this world named Watie White. So I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I post there a lot. My website is watiewhite.com. You can Google me, and I'll be the first 5 pages that come up.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
What an honor and pleasure to get to know you more this year, and I look forward. To just seeing what you're doing and what happens next for you. So
that's really kind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And thank you.